You're listening to DruidCast, episode 182.
Waiting to begin, the wheel is turning, yearning to rise again, see the tide is flowing, still and silent we wait, life's first spark through the cold, volumes writ lead the way, stories yet to be told. Ora, 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 to this rain, you are ora, ora, bright you are made. You've got it. Early in August. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to DruidCast, episode 182. I'm your host, Dave the Bard, and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of the month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about the Order and our courses, you can do that on our website at www.druidry.org. Opening the show, you heard a recording from this year's OBOD Summer Gathering held just a couple of weeks ago in Glastonbury. Jennifer was teaching a chant that would be sung during the summer ceremony on top of Glastonbury Tor that afternoon, and this is really the theme of the episode. This year's summer gathering was the one we had planned for June 2020 to celebrate the installation of the new chosen chief of the Order, Eimear Burke. But, like many events in 2020, for some reason, it had to be postponed to 2021. But then that didn't happen either. But this year it was finally able to go ahead. Now, unfortunately, after holding the energy of the event for 2 years and organising all of the marquees, the loos, the tickets, the drinks and all that kind of stuff, I went and got COVID 3 days before and I couldn't be there myself. But our awesome media officer Adrian Rook stepped in as Pendragon and the crew did a mighty job, and I am so happy to say that the event was a resounding success. Now then, this is the OBOD podcast, and I know that a lot of our listeners are members of the Order. Many of you could not obviously be at the gathering. The event was filmed for the Order's archives, and Kieran, who was doing the filming, sent me audio of some of the key points. Now, as the audio was recorded through the camera in the marquee, I've had to do a fair bit of technical treatment, and although it's not perfect, you know, this is such an important moment in the Order's history. I both want you to hear it, and also I want to have it on the DruidCast archives too. So, let's get on with the show. I am now going to hand over to, as he puts it himself, the ballpoint Pendragon, Professor Ronald Hutton, who gives a fabulous talk that looks back on some previous changes of Druid leadership and how the way the Order has done this is quite remarkable and peaceful in comparison. So, grab a cuppa and I will see you in a little while.
Got another Huttons. Note, I'm ingratiating myself already. Ladies and gentlemen, I tend to regard myself as the ballpoint Pendragon. Nothing like as grand as a real Pendragon, but portable and disposable and always being handed round at official events in order to do useful things. And I'm, as Eimear has so graciously said, a jobbing historian. And this is a historic moment. So the obvious thing to do is explain why this is historic. And the answer is not just because it is the final formal transfer of chieftainship in OBOD, but it's the first time our order, in its 111 years of existence, has managed to do this peacefully, orderly, and without a civil war, or a multiple betrayal. We can hardly look at ourselves in the mirror. So let me now explain what I mean. Our order was founded in 1911-12. We're not exactly sure which, because it emerges obscurely from the shadows, concealed behind the enormous bulk of a 6'8" Scotsman called George Watson MacGregor Reid, who was about 90% muscle and 10% hot air. Ladies and gentlemen, he was a great man, but not a nice one. He was a thug, a bully, a charlatan and a braggart, who somehow managed to do wonderful things. He did three wonderful things. First, he established the first ever order of Druids in Britain, dedicated to spiritual matters as opposed to fundraising, the arts, or general fellowship. And he called it the Universal Bond. It aimed to unite the spiritualities of the world. So to him, Druids were natural sisters and brothers. And of course, he had equality of the sexes in his order, with Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and every other world faith. And they walked their talk. Not only did they establish links with all these faiths, but 21 of them allegedly went out to the Sahara Desert to stand shoulder to shoulder with a Muslim group of conscientious objectors and pacifists who were preaching against Western imperialism. And Western imperialism arrived with machine guns to take them out, and it seemed that those Druids of the Universal Bond died alongside the Muslims in the Sahara. So we have a lineage of martyrs to which to look back. And that was MacGregor Reid's dream. Second, he established the regular meeting of Druids at Stonehenge, especially at the summer solstice, which we're carrying on to this day. And the third thing was, he was a socialist firebrand. He had made his living in the Glasgow docks, founding trade unions, and beating up union-breaking vigilantes. And he married a rich lady, became a professional guru, but whereas members of his order numbered about 50 or 60 at the Stonehenge ceremonies, thousands of ordinary country people turned out to hear him preach socialism, standing on top of a round barrow at dusk south of Stonehenge, predicting a world of equality, sorority, fraternity, and justice. At last, the knowledge of justice and the love of it. And amazingly, uniquely, for a great Druid chief, he had a son who loved Druidry and was all set to inherit his father's order when his father at last passed on. What could possibly go wrong? Answer: everything. It's almost brilliant to see what George does. First, he leaves his wife for a younger and prettier woman. Second, when his son worries about this, he quarrels with him permanently and disinherits him. Third, he loses interest in Druidry, but doesn't actually resign as chief. And incredibly, the Universal Bond survives, quietly, because a very nice man called G.W. Smith rallies a remnant of the order, recruits, and keeps them going at Stonehenge. And he invites the disinherited Robert, son of George Watson MacGregor Reed, to be one of his people and join them. And quietly, as the old man gets older but doesn't resign, they carry on the order. And then at last, George Watson MacGregor Reed goes to the great punch-up in the sky, and Smith becomes chief. At which point, Robert suddenly declares himself his father's legal heir and declares civil war on Smith and his friends. And the result is several years in which rival branches of the order worship at Stonehenge in an atmosphere of mutual recrimination, insult, and intense bitterness, which is only resolved when Smith, polite and self-effacing as ever, decides the one thing he can do is die, and relieve the problem. And his lot join up with Robert's, and peace finally breaks out. And Robert is a great leader. He is another massive man, physically, like his father. You could tower over a Stonehenge ceremony. When he appeared to lead one dressed in the white robes, crowds invariably shouted things like, "Here comes Moby Dick." But he was a great leader, as well as a great figure of a human being. He scrapped politics, but he kept the ecumenical side, the reach out to other faiths. And he also reached out to the people. Under him, with him, our order, still called the Universal Bond, developed most of the rituals, the ceremonies that we still use now, and composed others. It began to hold ceremonies on Tower Hill in the middle of London at lunchtime, so the bankers could all see Druids in action and learn from them. And they composed, in 1956, the chant or saying, "We swear by peace and love to stand," for the Tower Hill ceremony, and we have it still. And Robert was in the pink of health, had two first-rate lieutenants working in harmony with him and each other. Thomas More, a natural medic, and Ross Nichols, poet, writer, all-round good 'un. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the answer is cholesterol. Robert MacGregor Reed suddenly keels over of a heart attack, in the pink of health, suddenly dead, without appointing a successor. And now, to avert disaster, uniquely an election is held. This is something wisely we've never tried again. Because the two contenders are Thomas More and Ross Nichols, and the result is almost a dead heat, resulting in the two men dividing the order between them in mutual recrimination, bitterness, and creating a civil war, which now lasts for several years after. Thomas More keeping the title Universal Bond, and Ross Nichols founding the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, which is the Universal Bond with a rebrand and a reboot and a reborn. And the result, apart from all the recrimination, rivalry, and scrapping over who lost or the archive, finally ends in a status quo, a kind of rubbing along with a still certain amount of bitchery. And there is Ross, an order that spans the generations, an order with the vision to pick up the new as well as preserving the best of the old. Some of the new it picks up, being a slender schoolboy with a luxurious afro hairdo called Philip Carr-Gomm. The camera does not lie. What could possibly... The answer is that, like his great mentor, Robert MacGregor Reed, Ross is taken completely unawares by his own death and dies without a successor or indeed any preparation for a future. And the order goes to sleep for 10 years, until suddenly the spirit of Ross appears to Philip, very much alive in his mind, encourages him to refound the order, and then the surviving members come to Philip and invite him to do the same thing. And the result is probably the greatest Druid order in the history of the modern world. That's coming from me, so you'd better believe it. Druid orders which function more as friendly societies and benefit clubs and insurance societies and ceilidhs have got greater numbers in the 19th century. But there's never been a spiritual Druid order dedicated to personal growth and to the meeting of this world and the other worlds that has achieved the success, the numbers, and as this gathering so clearly testifies, the sheer geographical reach of OBOD. And that's a testimony to the quality of our leadership. I wasn't there at the time, so I can say this with utter impartiality. And now we come to this extraordinary turn of events, the completely unprecedented and frankly, ladies and gentlemen, shocking spectacle of a peaceful transference Just think of the 11 decades of crowded history that we are betraying in this moment. According to everything for which we've stood in the past, according to our entire record, Philip should be dead. And it's now too late to do so. Eimear should then have declared herself chief, followed shortly afterwards by Dave the Bard from his playmaker, establishing a rival group. And then the eldest daughter of Philip and Stephanie would count up to 2,000 and then proclaim herself the true chief. And we can then go back to our happy tradition, having rival groups trying to hog the limelight at Stonehenge for decades, but we haven't done it that way. As part of the magic that is OBOD, here we all are together. We've turned our back on the past, and frankly, since I spend so much time there, I recommend to you that the best thing one can do with the past is to turn one's back on about 98% of it. But we are making the future, and we're making it wonderfully. It could be that what's just happened is that Druidry has matured at last. It could be we even got sensible. But then I look at Adrian and my other beloved and esteemed colleagues and friends on this podium with me, and say, maybe we haven't done it yet. Maybe we've even got the best of both worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, our chosen chiefs.
The She's calling you home, calling you home, calling you back to the land that is your own, calling you home, calling you home. Feel it in my bones.
I just loved that talk, didn't you two? What could possibly go wrong? Fantastic as ever. Brilliant. Now, after Ronald, you heard the first song from our featured album this month, and that is Wish Me Away by Scott and Maria. I recently played a gig at a festival in Sussex, and Scott and Maria were also on the bill. Two Brighton performers, and we had never met, so I grabbed their album and they kindly gave me permission to play you some songs on the show. Maria's voice, absolutely breathtaking. And I'll be playing another song from that album later in the show. So, now I'm going to transport you back to that marquee in Glastonbury to play you what is essentially Philip Carr-Gomm's thank you speech from the gathering. Philip refounded the Order in 1988 and put together the courses that have been so life-changing for so many of us. Under his leadership, the Order grew to be the largest modern Druid Order in the world. So, here is our previous chosen chief, Philip Carr-Gomm.
Thank you so much, Ronald. Wonderful as ever. Thank you so much. And before we begin our ceremony in a few minutes, I'd just like to make a few remarks. It's just going to take about 5 minutes. But I thought you might like to have a sample of the sort of pillow talk that occurs between Stephanie and I. So this is last night, and let's see if I can remember it. Anyways, good night, darling. Good night, darling. We're very polite in bed. Steph? Yes, what do you want? Well, I just wanted to share this thought with you. Well, what's that? Well, you know, it's the Jubilee, the Queen's Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee weekend this weekend. Yes, yes. Well, you know, she's been at it for 70 years. Yes. I said, wait, doesn't it make my time of 32 years a bit sort of pathetic? Do you think Eimear would mind if I... Have you gone mad? Go to sleep. So, now on this auspicious day, with 5 planets in alignment in the heavens above us, I will finally let go. Having done so 99.9% 2 years ago in our online ceremony. But in order to finally complete this letting go by enacting this ceremony, I first need to acknowledge a whole bunch of incredible people. The role of chief sounds rather grand, rather old-fashioned and hierarchical. But in reality, it's a question of being both a kind of figurehead and being the person who takes ultimate responsibility. It's the role of leadership. Of course, you all know that the community you see all around you, the Order in all its aspects, and all that modern Druidry is, has grown so beautifully into what it is now, not because of any one leader, but thanks to all of us. To everyone who cares about this spiritual and magical path, this tradition, who loves the earth and who respects the natural world as sacred. And over the last 30 and more years, a remarkable group of people have come together to make the Order what it is today. I can't possibly name everyone who has contributed to this work, because the roll call of incredible people who have contributed their time and energy and talents is just simply so long. But let me mention as many as I can of those of you who have helped the Order grow and flourish to become the wonderful community that it is. First of all, Stephanie, our honoured scribe. If it wasn't for you, I don't think any of us would be sitting here today. For over 30 years, you've sat day after day. Can't look at me, I'm going to cry. For over 30 years, you've sat day after day, a cup of tea in one hand and a mouse in the other, keeping track of this. Keeping track of this grey motley band. But you've done so much more than running the office. From the moment you painted the image of the trilithon that appears on every Gwers cover 33 years ago in our little flat in Primrose Hill, to these beautiful renderings of Will Worthington's images from the Druid Annal Oracle that you see here and that you painted for the 50th celebrations in 2014. Your artistic sensibility and your editorial skills have been ever present. I've lost track of the times you've read what I've just written, only to say, you can't say that. Thank you for everything. Dave the Bard, our honoured Pendragon, I so wish you were here today. Your wisdom and common sense have been acted in exactly the way required of the Pendragon, to act as a steadying, protective and inspiring presence. The 182 episodes of DruidCast you've created, all the songs you have written, and your retelling of the branches of the Mabinogion with music and song represents an incredible achievement. You truly deserve the name Duff the Bard. Great gratitude and thanks too to Penny Billington, who has also acted like a guiding light, contributing so much to the order. As author and workshop leader, as editor of Touchstone for over 20 years, and whose trusty aide-de-camp and knight in shining armour, Arthur ZZ Billington, has brought such joy and sparkle to us through his music and illustrations. Dear Ronald Hutton, thanks to your commitment and your rigorous scholarship, the order, Druidry, and the wider movement of paganism have benefited immeasurably. And I believe you hold the record for having attended virtually every camp and Glastonbury gathering we have ever held. The roll call of those to thank continues with Susan Jones, who for 17 years led the team of mentors and now leads a small team of moderators on social media, and her successor Steve Hunt, who leads an incredible bunch of over 50 mentors who guide the many thousands of members all over the world. The mentor coordinators in other countries who lead their teams so skillfully: Anna Bloom in Germany, Annick Jacques in France, Marcus Mansard in Italy, Alexander Gabriel in Portugal, and Carola van Hoff in the Netherlands, who has just taken over from Henk and Marjorie, who are coordinators for over 20 years. Lillian Fredericks, who was mentor coordinator before Susan, created the Order's first website and organised the first Glastonbury gathering. Huge thanks to her, and to Adrian Rook, our press officer, and his predecessor Matt McCabe, who have done such sterling work with the press over the years. Kathleen Harrington and her team, who have hosted the numerous forums on the message board for so many years. All the members who run the seed groups and groves, too many to mention at over 200 now. The team at Oak Tree Press, who ensure that those little booklets, blue, green and white, arrive on time every month. Annie, Kate, Nettie, Sarah, Matthew. The teams in other countries who do the same, led by Marceline, Alexandra, Carl. The teams who put on camps for 20 years under the OBOD banner and now under the White Horse Camps banner. River Jones, who runs our amazing School of Celebrancy. JJ and Steve King, who have guided our Stonehenge ceremonies for so many years. Sean Hayes for his masterful comparing of our Eisteddfodau, and for being groups coordinator before handing over to Paul Corcoran and Pat Booker. You've all been amazing. As have all of you who have organised the Glastonbury rituals each year: Lorraine, Marion, Fee, Paddy and Gabby. Huge thanks too to the Anderida Grove team here, who each year until COVID, under the watchful eye of Dave and Kerry, have made sure these gatherings have run so smoothly and so well. Finally, A massive thank you to my assistant, Maria Eade Weeding, who, after 11 years, is the only person in the world, apart from Steph, of course, who knows me better than myself. I'm confident that both Steph and Maria will be able to find my marbles if I ever lose them. You're a star, Maria, and I can't wait to read your book on Druidry, which is coming out soon. Oh, she's spilling the beans. Yes. And last, but not least in this roll call of amazing people, I would like to thank Dwayne Gibb for her patronage over all these years, for her rescuing the camps from near total destruction after a great storm many years ago, to her funding of the Gibb Scholarship for Postgraduate Research into Druidry, and for her support of the Mount Hemus Award Scholarship Fund for the last 24 years. Of course, my great thanks go to Eimear too, for having agreed to take on this role. Steph and I rather naively thought that when we asked her, she would just say yes. But she said, let me think about it. And then another sample of pillow talk. Good night, sir. What if Eimear says no when we see her tomorrow? What are we going to do? Okay. Let me finish by saying all of us, whether mentioned or not, whether we have played an active role or not, are integral and vital parts of a movement of awakening, of growing compassion towards the earth, towards all of nature. Today, far from Druidry seeming like some arcane fringe activity, our preoccupations are now centre stage. They address the most urgent and important issue of our time: how we galvanise all of our potential, practical, creative, intellectual, and spiritual, to protect and restore the earth. They address directly the gaze of Greta Thunberg and her generation, our children and grandchildren, to say, we are committed to our love of nature to the fullest extent, with all of our being, all looking towards the same horizon, a world in which each human being has enough to lead a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life, without terrible inequalities between rich and poor, without the destruction of habitats and species, without the pollution of our skies and seas. Together and individually, in our own unique ways, I hope and believe that we can all fulfill these two most important aspirations of the Druid path: to care for our environment and all life, and to foster wisdom and compassion within ourselves.
I am the one I've been waiting for. I am the one knocking at my door. I've been feeling me down to my core. I'm the one I've been looking for. From time to time I've been needing help to guide my hand to play all of the cards I'm dealt. To find the way is easy when the way is felt. 'Cause I am the one I've been looking for. I am the one now. I'm the one I've been waiting for. I am the one now. falling for love.
One of the things I have always loved about the OBOD is the joy and laughter at our gatherings. You know, of course, there is depth and focus too, as we gather for ceremony on the Tor at Stonehenge in Avebury, but there is also plenty of mirth, kindness and humanity. And as I listened to that speech in Ronald's before, I was sitting here laughing away at 1 minute and then nodding at the depth and sincerity the next. I love it. After Philip, you heard another song from Wish Me Away, this one called I Am the One. Now, next up, we have the voice of Eimear Burke. Eimear officially took over as chosen chief of the order in June 2020, but it now really feels like she has fully stepped into those shoes, and what follows are the words she spoke after the confirmation ceremony that took place on Saturday morning of the order's gathering. We honour the past, we are firmly rooted in the present, as we now also look forward to the future.
It's just so wonderful to be here with you all. And it's very emotional, very teary, very touched by the power of your support and the power of your fellowship and the power of your love. So many people have come up to me wishing me support, genuinely, and I really thank you for that. And I want to thank Philip and Stephanie for, I suppose, his lovely words today. And he spoke for me when he was talking about all the people who support this order, but especially for his guidance in the last, well, still 2 years. He hasn't. He wants that 99% thing. That's not right. He's been a great support to me and available at the phone or an email or WhatsApp whenever I needed it. And I agree. I think Stephanie and he are a wonderful partnership. And Stephanie's been a very subtle support to me. She's not always subtle, but but her hospitality, her kindness to me, and her gentle nudging in my camper van how many years ago, encouraging me to write to Mary Spain and just do the Druid review. And I didn't realise that she had an ulterior motive for that. So I want to thank you. I don't think I'd be here if I hadn't done it. So, 2 years ago, I described the order as a natural forest, with a diversity of plants and trees. And such diversity is so healthy, and I think we have a very, very healthy order, and I think Ronald paid tribute to the health, comparing the past with the present. And let's hope this health continues. And for me, it's an order that has so many different faces, different expressions. And people have different experiences of the order. There are people who go to camps and nothing else. And then there are people who come to the gatherings in Glastonbury. Others go on the OBOD retreats or the Gorsets. And people asked me before I took over what changes I was going to make to the order, and I said none. For me, the order didn't need changing, but perhaps I would add something. And something has happened in the last 2 years, that we have created an online presence. And this is another experience of the members. I didn't appreciate how difficult it was for solitary Druids until this pandemic. I had been a solitary practitioner for the first 7 years, and then I became active in the order. But my sense of how isolated people are. There are people all over the world who maybe can't declare they're a Druid because they might lose their job or their community isn't open to it. And that in these last 2 years, the only thing I'll say, thanks to the pandemic, that it brought our order closer and people now have a greater sense of community. I think that is so, so important. However, there is no substitute for gathering together to be able to physically hug and smile and share food and share mead or whatever, or to be physically present together in a ceremony. And so many, that we're going to continue having an online presence. Philip has come back with his teas, which is wonderful. The fireside chats continue, our online ceremonies. And we've had 2 Zoom meetups, which have been a great success. And we're going to continue with those. And then we're going to have Zoom sessions where we have speakers and maybe breakout rooms for discussions, so that we will have both a physical presence or a physical experience of the order and continue for our members worldwide. And our membership the rate of membership has doubled in the last 2 years. I'm not taking credit for that, but I would imagine it would be also, it's part of the zeitgeist that people are concerned for the planet, the earth and our beings. And who better than an order of Druids like OBOD to support people in that. And I never thought we'd have online ceremonies or they would work. I would have said, no, you can't do that. And yet, 2 years ago with the installation ceremony, thanks to Dave's magical weaving of those recordings, I sat in my sitting room with my stepdaughter and my 2 children, with some friends, sensing the connection. I could feel it as Philip handed the mantle over to me and I was in tears. I never thought that was possible, and of course, why wouldn't it be? We work on the inner plane all the time. Yet, it's just so lovely to experience the confirmation of the installation today in front of you and to have it witnessed and feeling that love. I want to thank my family. I am so pleased they're here. 5 of them, can you believe? My brother Fionn, who came from the US, and my sister Mairead from Dublin. Ruan, my son, Quaylen, my daughter, and Lizzie, my stepdaughter. Just wonderful. Ruan and Quaylen came with me my first time to Glastonbury with Howard, my late husband. We came to do the ritual and meditation courses with Barry and Kate Riley at the Chalice Well. And I remember walking down the high street thinking, this is Diagon Alley. And it hasn't changed because I saw one wizard outside the Abbey yesterday, so it's just wonderful. One person I haven't mentioned is Maria. I want you to stand up because I want people to see you. Maria has been such a support and a rock in the last 2 years. I met her for the first time yesterday. In addition to holding and minding and finding Philip's marbles, I hope she did the same for me. She has that gentle touch, that wisdom. She's a wonderful way of words, constantly generous. I see how she answers the messages on Facebook. Her kindness, her consideration, her wisdom, her brilliance. Thank you, Maria. I'm waffling because I've gone off piece. You're going to have to be with me, and I'm quite excited. And anyway, it's just a great privilege and an honour to be of service as chosen chief to what is the most amazing of Druid orders, and I think you would agree with that. Yeah. But I'm not the only one of service. Philip talked about all of the people he mentioned who over the years have and continue to be of service, to continue to contribute with competence, love, passion, commitment, and joy to the running of the order. And one of the cornerstones of Druidry is of service. And what I love about this order is that service has many faces. Each of us are of service in our own way. We are unique, so we can be healers, teachers, ritual holders, celebrants, musicians, poets, singers, storytellers. And there's an expression of service for everybody. And I'm also grateful to those sea groups and groves in the last 2 years who've stepped up and done the online ceremonies. Those who already do their physical ones but still contribute to the order by considering those who don't have a physical grove or sea group. Thank you so much for doing that, and we're going to continue with those. So, each one of us contributes to this order to make it what it is. And I hope to continue that ethos as the years go ahead, to strengthen that. We are of service all together, the love of justice, peace, the love of all existences. And we have an expression in Irish, Ar Scá a Chéile a Warren Nadini. It's under the shadow of each other that people survive. And what we have in the order with bards, obods and druids, like 3 strands of a rope, and each strand is made up of the individual strands, the individual members, to make a very, very strong rope. In Yarth, Cocarlicane, there is strength in unity.
Well, my friends, that is a show. I hope you enjoyed being a part of this occasion and have enjoyed the brief visit to the Order's Summer Gathering. I've loved hearing it myself, and it just reinforces what a joy it is to be part of this amazing worldwide community. But this music means we are approaching the end of the show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. The prize was a copy of the amazing book by Professor Alice Roberts called Ancestors, A Prehistory of Britain in 7 Burials, and the question I asked was, the ancient time period known as the New Stone Age is known by another name. What is that name? Well, the answer I was looking for was the Neolithic, and the first name drawn from the hat and winner of that brilliant book is Tristan Ray. I hope I've pronounced that right, from Ottawa, Canada. Congratulations, Tristan. That book will be with you very soon. The prize this month is a copy of our featured album, Wish Me Away by Scott and Maria, and the question I'd like you to answer is, Eimear Burke is now the chosen chief of the Order. Before that was Philip Carr-Gomm. What was the name of the first chosen chief and founder of the Order back in 1964? What is the name of the first chosen chief and founder of the Order back in 1964? Email your answer along with your full postal address to podcast@druidry.org, and one of you will win that excellent CD. It's been wonderful to hear those words from Glastonbury, and I hope that if you couldn't make the gathering, you've enjoyed being there through the conduit of this podcast. My friends, have a blessed solstice, whether that is the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere or the winter in the Southern Hemisphere. I will be back next month for DruidCast episode 183. But until then, I wish you all peace and blessed be. Goodbye.